Hello and welcome to the Sol Zero Map Editor. In this video I'm going to cover a couple of the topics such as drawing and painting textures on the terrain and sharing your maps on the Steam Workshop. The first thing I want to talk about is probably the most important aspect of the editor. And you can see in the lower left I've got a couple features, a mountain and a hill. And when you're finished designing your level, you want to make sure that it's playable in game. And what I mean by that is if you click this button down here, it turns on a walkable layer, where you can see where the player can walk. So anywhere where that's green, the player can walk. And you can see that as a result of our painting, some of these features have some very large edges that should be cleaned up. So the most important thing to do to make sure your map will actually be playable is to go here into your texture tools and click the flatten brush, set the flat height to 0, turn the brush strength all the way up, and what that does is it allows you to go through and clean up the edges on your map. So you probably want the player to be able to walk between these two features here. So we can just clean up the edges. And similarly, it's good to have the edges very tight against the terrain, so it's very visible to the player where they can walk, where they can build, and where they can't. So this whole area over here should be cleaned up. And the closer you can get to the edge of the terrain, the better the experience will be for the player. So it just takes a few minutes, and if you clean up all the edges around the features on your map, it'll result in a map that's pretty fun to play. So first let's cover painting on the terrain. If you go to the terrain painting tool, and you have a couple brushes here that I'll talk about. So you can select different brushes, and it's really up to you how you want to use these. They allow you to add or subtract features on the terrain. So if we click subtract, then we can create craters and canyons and that kind of thing. And what I found works best if you use this circular brush to paint sort of broad features, and then select a different brush, add a bit of a weaker strength to do some fine features. It comes out looking a bit more natural and interesting. There's also a crater brush if you'd like to place craters. And similarly, if you go back over those with a bit of a texture, it can make them look somewhat interesting. So you can use your own brushes. You can make your own. If you go up here to the Help menu and click on Modifying Terrain, it'll tell you where the folder is that you need to place your own brushes in. You can make any PNG file that's 256 by 256 pixels, and yeah, experiment and make your own brushes and upload them to the workshop. So the next thing I'll talk about is texturing. If you click this texture button, you can use those same brushes to paint different textures on the terrain. So here I'm painting sort of a rocky texture on top of this base. And you can use your own textures. If you click the folder icon, you can go in and select any textures that you've created or placed in the folder. So here, if we want to change the base texture to grass, now we've got sort of a grassy type thing going on. So the next topic I'll cover is placing minerals. So if we click this mineral button, you can paint all the minerals in the game, and you can set the brush strength to control how strong they get painted, and you can select how your minerals are distributed across your map. There are also a few options where you can select the landing site. So you can select where on Mars you land, and if you click Edit Planet, you're given a few options for changing the texture of the planet, adding a moon. You can give the moon some rings, so if you're trying to make a map that takes place on Saturn or around a gas giant, you can create something that's sort of interesting when you're on the main menu. The last topic I'll talk about is the Steam Workshop. So if you want to share your maps or your textures or your brushes on the Steam Workshop, you can click this upload button and you can upload it to the workshop. Similarly, if you click the download button, then it'll take you to a workshop overlay and you can subscribe to different textures that other people have created. I can't show you that now because it'll interfere with the recording, but in general, if you have any questions, you can always click this question mark, and really everything that is in the map editor is explained, and it tells you the different paths on your computer where you can find the different files. So thanks very much, and I hope you found this video to be useful.